Welcome to the Language Fuel podcast. Our mission is to fuel the teaching and learning of languages worldwide. I'm your host, Joanna Smith. Hello and welcome to the Language Fuel podcast, episode number 6. Today we are going to be taking a look at Te Reo Maori, the Maori language. And the reason is because I am going to start learning Maori. I decided it would be fantastic to actually demonstrate some of the stuff I'm talking about. So I am donning my language learning hat, and this is the beginning of my Te Reo Maori learning journey. So first of all, why do I want to learn Maori? Well, there's a few different reasons. First of all, I have always wanted to for quite a little while. Maori is unique to New Zealand. It's one of our three official languages, the others being English and Sign Language, New Zealand Sign Language. And I don't speak New Zealand Sign Language either. It's a gift to be living in a country that's actually bilingual. Now, I have actually said previously on this podcast that New Zealand is pretty much a monolingual country, and I guess, although that's not entirely true at all, what I mean by that is that I guess the majority culture is English speaking. However, there are a whole lot of people from a whole lot of different places, in Auckland in particular, in the big cities, so it's really extremely multilingual, but the mainstream culture is English. And actually we have Maori, so we are uniquely bilingual in the sense that it is a heritage language of this country. So it's very, very special to be here, and I don't speak it. I haven't made the most of living in a country where it has a historical language like that. So it's a gift, it's a taonga, and I would really love to enjoy that. The only Maori I know at the moment are greetings and cultural sort of words and phrases and stuff like that, so I'd really love to fill that knowledge gap there. Secondly, the reason why I'd love to be learning Maori is to keep myself active as a linguist. I think all language teachers actually should be keeping their language learning experience alive so they can develop that empathy with their students when they're asking students to, memorize vocabulary items and practice this, that, and the other. Do they really know what they're asking? Do they know what it feels like? And most language teachers have, in fact, learned languages in their lifetime. But to keep it current, to be on a journey of another language learning is fantastic. So I'm, I guess, modeling that behavior and keeping myself active with my linguistics and that sort of thing. Now, for some of you language teachers who are listening, you might say, I don't have time to be learning another language. I've got my home life to look after and my work life and all that sort of thing. So feel free to listen vicariously. I will go on this language learning journey and I will share with you some of the struggles that I will no doubt have. And then you can remember what it's like. So I'm very happy to do that for you. Thirdly, I'm really quite keen to become familiar with resources for learning and teaching Maori. We do stock some in the resource room, so I've been having a look through them, a little flick through, and I'll certainly be using some of them in my journey. But I would love to be much more knowledgeable about what's out there. So when teachers and students say, hey, what have you got to learn Te Reo? I say, you know what? I know exactly something that will be useful for you. So part of that is, becoming familiar, because I want to support more people all throughout New Zealand to be learning Maori. It is, as I say, a taonga, a treasure for us here. So I'll do what I can to support it in that way. Fourthly, this is going to be a bit of a self-directed language learning journey. I'm not attending classes. I haven't signed up anywhere. I haven't paid any money. Because you can. I want to demonstrate it is absolutely possible to learn a language without
Self-directed
language
learning
is something
that I think anyone can do.
So I'd love to be demonstrating
the word
that for
teacher
you,
being,
someone
the
standing
more
in front of a
people who are
classroom,
giving it a go,
telling
to
you
learn
this, that,
another
and the other.
language,
Of course, there are
better.
many teachers.
It's also
Anyone
one of the
who's written
services
anything
that
produced
we are offering. We offer
anything
coaching
is
and
in
self-directed
essence a type of
language
teacher.
learning.
So
Leslie
I will
Foster is one of
certainly
our coaches
be
there.
making the most of
So I
what can
anticipate that
find
she
out
might
there, but
help me
what
along
I
a
mean
little
is
bit
I'm
as
not
well
going to
when
be
I get a
attending
bit
any
stuck with informal
get her
classes.
to give me some coaching on how I can move forward in my journey. So today, rather than getting started and actually learning a few things, I thought I would, for myself and your benefit, recap what I already know about Te Reo Maori so I can, get ready to take the next step. So I know that the language is called te reo, and in the language that means the language. We often call it te reo Maori. The English word for it is the Maori language, Maori, but I probably will alternate between calling it Maori and calling it te reo. I know that this language is spoken in New Zealand only. That's probably not 100% true. I'm sure there may be some Maori people who have travelled elsewhere and are speaking it in their homes, but in general it is spoken in New Zealand only and not other countries. As I mentioned earlier, it's one of our official languages. It is part of the Austronesian language family, and more specifically the Malayo-Polynesian part, which means it's related to other Pacific Island languages like Samoan, Tongan, Niuean, and so on. The the Malayo-Polynesian language family is actually very large geographically. I know that it goes, right up to Hawaii in the north, and traveling eastwards from New Zealand, it goes all the way to Madagascar. Some languages spoken on Madagascar are actually part of the Malayo-Polynesian family. So historically, seafaring people and that sort of thing. I know there is a movie called Madagascar, and when I watched it with my kids, I said, "You won't believe it, girls. Do you know that some of the languages spoken there are actually part of the Malayo-Polynesian family?" And they just said, "Oh, Mum," and rolled their eyes. But anyway, I try to educate them on these things wherever possible. I have studied languages in this language family previously. Indonesian is based on Malaysian, and it was a political decision back in, I'll get my dates wrong, so I'm not even going to attempt it, but in mid-20th century, shall we say, the government in Indonesia decided they needed one language instead of the many that they had to be an official language, and it was kind of a toss-up between Malaysian or Javanese, and they decided to import the language that wasn't a native language of any of the peoples in order to be sort of fair for everybody. That's kind of my take on it. So basically Indonesian is based on Malaysian, which is obviously part of the Malayo-Polynesian language family. So I'm familiar with it. I also studied Niuean for a little while as I was learning about how to do self-directed language learning. So I had about 6 weeks practicing with a Niuean speaker and trying my hand on that. And as part of my master's thesis, I looked at a minority Indonesian language, also part of the same language family. I looked at its morphology and its historical kind of connections based on the grammar and the phonology clues and so on. So I am a little bit familiar with features of languages in this language family. So things, for example, on a morphological level, I know that I'll be looking for morphemes that sort of add on to the words, things like causatives, causative prefixes. In terms of semantics, I know that, for example, they have singular, plural, and dual, whereas English might have singular and plural. We don't often have the dual way of indicating plurality. I know that there are directional words, mai being towards me, for example, in the phrase Haere Mai, and so on. Phonologically, I know that there are 5 vowels, very common for languages in this language family, and I think there is a language, or maybe 1 or 2, that have 3 vowels, but apart from those exceptions, the languages with the least number of vowels tend to have the 5. So it's a very simple vowel system. The a, e, I, o, u. I know that there are long vowels though, and this is something that I wasn't familiar with. Only in the last few years, are you seeing this on signs and so on to have the macron, so I'm assuming that that's long vowels. I haven't got a clue. I haven't got a clue what they sound like or which ones are long and so on. Another phonological aspect I'm aware of is that there is a relatively simple syllable structure. I know they won't have multiple consonants as either onsets or final consonants, so the pronunciation I'm not anticipating being particularly difficult. I know that in terms of stress timing versus syllable timing, Maori sits more on the continuum of syllable timing, which is a little bit different from English. In terms of syntax, I know very little. I don't really know much at all about Maori sentence structure, so that's something I'm going to have to get my head around pretty quickly. In terms of vocabulary, I have a very, very limited vocabulary of Maori at the moment. I know things from children's songs, from greetings, and from place names. Many, many New Zealand place names are obviously Maori. And what I also know is that the longest place name in the world, as verified by the Guinness Book of World Records, is a Maori place name. Now, I don't know what it is memorized, but I have actually looked this up on the internet, so let me attempt to read that for you. I cannot read the whole thing at once because my eyes are just going to go crazy in terms of figuring out where I'm up to, but this particular site I'm looking at has broken it down into the different words. So here I go trying to read that. Taumata whakatangihanga koau o tamatia turi pukaka piki maunga horo nuku pokai whenua ki tāna tahu. I don't know how many syllables that is. I'd like to count sometime. And apparently it means the place where Tamatia, the man with the big knees, who slid, climbed, and swallowed mountains, known as Land Eater, played his flute to his loved one. So there you go. Maybe one of my tasks, one of my homework is to memorize that, figure out how many syllables it is, and try practicing saying it. That would be quite fun. So that's my superficial knowledge of the linguistics of the language. Sociolinguistically, I have been on marae visits. I've slept on marae with my children and my family. But in the ceremonial part, where there's speeches and so on, I just didn't understand a thing. No idea what that was. Perhaps the greeting at the very beginning, and that's it. So I would really dearly love to have enough passive knowledge to follow along with speeches. I mean, how wonderful would that be? To be honest, I'm not particularly assuming I will need an active, speaking ability, although I'd be happy to do that a little bit. But to be able to listen to speeches and things like that would be brilliant, and actually know what they're saying. And to be completely honest, the marae is probably the only place that I am familiar with where te reo is spoken live. I mean, I know it's also on TV, and I have occasionally flicked through Māori television, but again, without knowing what they're saying, I don't stay long on the TV channel. But I'm conscious that that's a place that I can use, a resource, in my self-directed learning there. I have a couple of Māori friends, previous work colleagues, who do speak Māori at home, and when I've met their families, I've heard them speak Māori with their children. And the only thing I remember is them saying to their children, Haere Mai, which means, come here, come over here. So I have heard a few different phrases. I know the E2, stand up, and things like that. That's pretty much it. The phrase Haere Mai, if I want to go down that a little bit more, also does mean welcome. So it's a very, very familiar phrase for most New Zealanders. It's, in a lot of signs and so on. So everybody probably knows that Haere Mai means welcome. It's also very meaningful because recently, and I say recently, I mean a few years, one of our singer-songwriters, our Kiwi singer-songwriters, Dave Dobbyn, published a fantastic song called Welcome Home, and the phrase Haere Mai is used, and it's absolutely fantastic. And it has, in past, when I've listened to it, brought tears to my eyes when we've been travelling and we're coming home or thinking of returning home or something, and hearing that song, it's just absolutely fantastic. If you are not familiar with it, I will put a link on iTunes where you can buy it, but I've just got something prepared here in the background, so we'll see if you can hear this. This is what it sounds like. So that's really the part of the song that sort of gets all the climactic, and it's very, very wonderful. Lovely song if you're looking for a new song. So that's pretty much my knowledge of Māori. I am going to start a journey of learning a whole bunch more. So I invite you to join with me. I hope it's interesting to you, and I hope it encourages you also in a self-directed way to be learning another language. Ka kite, that means something like see you later. I'm not exactly sure what it means, but I know that's appropriate to say at the moment. And I will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Language Fuel podcast. You can navigate to the show notes and links via our homepage at www.languagefuel.com. See you next time.